Asking for apologies, if there's any.
None, Chair.
Councillor Greensmith, we seem to be missing Councillor Elliott. Do you know if he's coming tonight?
I'm not 100% certain. I'm in the process of trying to contact him now.
Right.
All I do know is his family, he's got some of his family are very seriously ill at the moment. We all within the Conservative group know this.
Right.
So if I can send his apologies,
Yeah.
so they're recorded, but he might turn up.
Okay. And
Okay.
obviously send our best wishes from this committee and obviously the Labour group as well. For him.
Thank you.
Okay. Does somebody want to move these minutes? Somebody second them? All in favour of approving these minutes, show of hands, please. Any abstentions? Okay. Moving on then. Declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? Okay, dokie. Item 4 on the agenda is the annual health and safety report, and it's going to be given by Grant.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, committee members. So I'm here today to present to JCSE members the annual Health and Safety Report to inform you of the health and safety performance covering the period of the 1st of April 2020 up until the 31st of March 2021. So the report is covered on page 9 to 13. The cover report is covered on pages 9 to 13 in your pack, and I'll take that as read. And the main Health and Safety Annual Report starts on page 15 of your pack. So the report and the findings provide an update to the committee in respect of health and safety and some other emergency planning activity across the council in order to provide assurance of the council's commitment to health and safety and associated risks in terms of how they are being managed effectively. You'll see that the report is broken down into 12 key sections. And just for information as well, that this report was also provided to and presented to Cabinet on Thursday, the 4th of November. So the annual report covers summarised findings and impacts of the coronavirus emergency and other factors that have had a knock-on effect to the Health and Safety Work Programme and the original planned delivery of objectives. In 2020-2021, a significant proportion of the health and safety role was taken up handling the council's response activity to the COVID-19 pandemic. This involved joint collaborative response and recovery work across the council, as well as wider partners, working with officers and senior leadership team, and as well as through the council's incident management team. So effectively, we set up an IMT to respond to and recover from the pandemic, and that work currently is ongoing. The council's response required additional emergency planning input from officers from across the council, and effectively it meant that pretty much every single service area worked together to provide an outstanding response to managing everything from staffing furlough, testing centre mobilisation, humanitarian response, vaccination centre set-up and delivery, home working, remote meetings, and responding at pace to changes in legislation. So this also covered everything from closure to reopening of services, and in some areas maintaining services such as waste collection under the most challenging of circumstances. The response required a complete overall risk assessments to mitigate the risk of infection from COVID-19, as well as risk management around the changing ways of working, home working risk assessments, and many other streams of work. So my post was effectively an instrumental role in monitoring and assessing the risks throughout the pandemic and supporting the ongoing delivery of the council functions during the past year. Given the impact on the health and safety on health and safety resource, the year involved a significant reprioritisation of work for the health and safety role. The pandemic also affected a number of accidents and incidents and adverse events reported to the Council's AssessNet system. So effectively, we were sort of tracking above 200 per year. And during the last year, this dipped to 137 total reported incidents. So this was largely understood to be attributed to the lockdowns, government restrictions, and closure of council facilities such as leisure. Staff work-related injuries and ill health-related cases, which is something that Councillor Feeney picked up last year that he wanted to see employee stats on, in fact increased last year from 45 the year before to 61 reported injuries to employees for that year. These statistics, however, are included, injuries are included, these statistics, so the 61 for last year includes a significant proportion that are attributed to COVID-related injuries, so that was 20% of the total. So if you take out the COVID-related injuries, the average last year was 49. So an 8-year average of injuries involving employees tracks at 47 as a mean. So we were just a smidge above that at 49 for 2020, 2021. And just to give you a very quick summary, so the 4 main areas of injuries involving staff were slip, trips and falls, violence, manual handling, and COVID-related injuries. So on page 19 of your report pack, that breaks down employee accidents and gives you that 8-year totals, and it's illustrated in a bar chart. Also on page 19, you'll see the accident incident rate, which shows actually a growing AIR over the last 8 years. So work is ongoing to get to the bottom and understand the full reasons for that. But effectively, we're seeing a decreasing workforce and an increasing AIR over that same period. So recommendations and future work plans are being recommended to management to address this. One such example, for example, is to include health and safety being prioritised and placed at the heart of planning processes and staff appraisals. And this has seen proven results through one particular department of note, which is community relations, which has seen their past audits and results really seen really big improvements. Covered on page 22 to 24 includes health and safety training, and it shows that in quarters 3 and 4, training was restarted, and that was bespoke external delivered training that was commissioned by myself in consultation with managers that required that training. Additional training has also been put in place for the financial year, for this financial year, to address legacy issues and to plug the gap that where training had to be paused and redirected the resource to the pandemic. Occupational health also was initially affected by the pandemic, but now has seen the highest level of clinics delivered in any given year, 9 clinics so far this year. So it's been a real super turnaround from none to 9. And so in terms of the average, so the average per year was tracking at 6. So we've done a lot more, and that's largely in part because I've currently got a health and safety technician who's full-time support. So we've really been able to focus on catch-up work and plug in any gaps that we've identified historically. There's also been lots of targeted work last year on audits, inspections, and in many respects, every single service saw a version of a mini audit focused on targeted work, whether that be COVID-19 related risk assessments or a specific work activity support stream. So everything from helping rewrite waste collection procedures, taxi inspection procedures, all the way through to supporting leisure reopen and many other examples. Some key achievements, which are covered on page 27 or paragraph 9.3 of the main report. There was a large statutory compliance improvement area in regards to face-fit testing. This was prioritised last year and delivered for employees that have to, as part of their work, use close fitting respiratory protective equipment. This work area was required to close a control gap. The council can now demonstrate and evidence improved statutory compliance with control of substances hazardous to health, along with the PPE regulations. This work was also completed in a COVID-secure manner. On pages 27 and 28 starts covering some key achievements and kind of summarises, well, it does summarise the some key delivered work streams for last year. So I'm just going to quickly summarise a few of them for you, from providing thorough examination testing guidance, accident reporting RIDDOR for RIDDOR, so that's the reporting of injuries, dangerous diseases occurrence regulations, all the way through to face covering guidance and instructions, contractor control, cleaning, decontamination. There really wasn't much that I didn't get stuck into. It really was quite phenomenal. Of particular personal note, through the whole madness of 2020, I managed to achieve chartered status. So as of the 10th of August, I could use the prefix SIM IOSH and chartered safety and health practitioner status. So given the incredibly challenging year, this was a real noteworthy achievement for my own personal development. Given when you were juggling 100% of a role for emergency planning and equally the same for the health and safety role, I look back and think, I don't quite know how I did it. So on page 29, paragraph 9.16, covers key work streams that highlight some work that I was directly involved in. So I'll give you a summarised version already, but I just want to pull out, so for example, from pest control risk assessment instructions, and also helping the redeployment of leisure to backfill waste collection and parks roles. So I was key with leisure management in providing that training, toolbox talks to get them up and running. On page 30, it explains and goes into some detail about the risk management and how my role uses effective risk management process to effectively risk assess and how I prioritised an incredibly busy work programme to make sure that the key risks were managed and controls remained in place. So as I've already pulled out today, since the health and safety technician has been supporting me, it's allowed a massive refocus on legacy areas that needed support. So far this year, this particular year, 8 sets of policies and guidance have been reviewed, and currently a couple are in consultation with management of the wider workforce to help sort of plug the gap moving forward. So we're really trying to restart that plan, do, check, act model. In conclusion, 2020-2021 financial year was an exceptionally challenging year for maintaining the health and safety management system. We made every effort to maintain the professional standards and robustness of the health and safety management system. Given the limitations of a single officer for the large proportion of that year on the short-term temporary resource, I think it's nothing short of remarkable how we've managed to maintain the standards we did. The years of preparation work to prepare the council for the emergency clearly paid dividends in terms of exercising, briefings and training to get the council ready. And I really hope and feel that the wider council organisation can see that the health and safety profession really does apply that pragmatic, holistic approach to health and safety and the strategies to deal with the pandemic and other health and safety issues that do come up in the workplace. So that's the report, and if anyone has any questions, please fire away.
Councillor Hemingway.
Just one quick one. You'd mentioned about that full-time technician that enabled you to get on top of the occupational health. Is that something that is continuing? Is that a fixed term? Or are they going forward?
So I understand that to be at the moment for an additional 6-month period.
And congratulations on your chartered status.
Councillor Feeney.
I was just going to say the thing for getting the charter status is to great achievement. I know how difficult it is myself, and it is a major achievement. It takes years to do, and thanks very much, and it's a benefit to the council that you've got it.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like, echo the thoughts of Councillor Hemingway and Councillor Feeney. Well done, Grant, on that. Just an observation, really, and I appreciate that, some of this will be out of your control, Grant, but I think there's a slight concern that what seems to be an upward trend in terms of accidents and injuries to employees, and I think it just goes to show that health and safety is everybody's responsibility. You might oversee it, but we all have a role to play in ensuring everybody's safety.
Thank you very much. Is there any other questions for Grant? No? Okay. Well, thank you for the report, Grant, and congratulations on your status, and good luck in the new job.
Thank you.
And one other thing, obviously I know you're leaving, so I just want to thank you for all your work on behalf of our residents and the authority, and wish you well in the future.
Thank you.
Report is duly noted. Item agenda, sorry, I'm trying to get used to the tablet. Item agenda number 5, sickness absence, report from David.
Thank you, Chair. So the first of 3 information items tonight. The items are standing items, so you'll be familiar with most of them in terms of format and content. Just bring up to date with some detail. So the first item is to do with sickness absence. The information really starts on page 34. You'll see the trends graph there and some more detailed information behind that as well. What I'd say is that we're currently running still close to target, 9.04 days lost per full-time equivalent employee at the end of September, against a target of 9 days. So it's the first time in a little while we've actually sort of strayed above the target, but only by a small amount. So it's worth keeping a watching brief, but at the moment, running pretty close to target still. Long-term absence still remains, I suppose, an issue. I'd say an issue, but it's stabilised at around 50% of the days lost and has been for the last three quarters. I'd say what I'd normally say, which is long-term absence is monitored. We do continue to have welfare meetings with people who are on long-term absence. That's meetings with that employee affected, also the manager and someone from my team in HR as well. And we do work actively with occupational health to try to provide support for employees to return at an appropriate time as quickly as possible, not with undue haste, but as quickly as possible. You'll see in paragraph bullet point 3, just some brief information about the third wave of COVID. I suppose when I wrote it, third wave sounded like a last wave. I think that's probably optimistic, really, isn't it? So at the time, there was a third wave still pushing through. And in July, we had 16 people away from work. 9 of those were self-isolating, and another 7 actually with COVID symptoms. Rules on self-isolation have changed now, so unless somebody actually does have a positive test, then if they've been double jabbed, then if they don't display symptoms, they wouldn't isolate. So in terms of absence from work, we would see a reduced prevalence of that. In August, there was only 1 person absent from work who had been confirmed as being COVID positive. Currently, as we speak, there are no absences from work for that reason. In terms of bigger teams that we have, sort of 20 plus, probably 2 teams continue to be of concern in terms of the rate of absences. So our Parks and Street Cleansing team, PASC, and also the Waste and Transport team. In the list as well is the Customer Services team, but what I would say is that that's really to do with historic absences, and in recent months their rate of attendance has been very good. There are no long-term cases in that team. So PASC, and Waste and Transport, I would say, currently are the teams with the perhaps highest rates of absence, and also the teams where there is most long-term absence as well. That's probably what I was going to say, Chair. So the recommendation is to note the report, but obviously happy to take any questions as well.
Councillor Feeney?
Just do we keep a record of employees who have been vaccinated?
No, we don't. We discussed that through SLT a little while ago. To an extent, I suppose having that information is difficult to collect accurately to start with, and it's time-consuming to collect. But also, you're not that sure about I think the validity of the data, the accuracy of the data. But also, to an extent, probably academic in that if we have someone who's reporting absence because of COVID, it's a question that we would ask if they had been double jabbed. But also, if someone was trying to report an absence to do with isolating, well, the rules really have changed on that now. So, except in exceptional circumstances, we wouldn't expect that isolation to be taking place if the person had been double jabbed. But we would ask the question.
Thank you very much. Any other questions on this agenda item? The recommendation on page 33 is to note the report, so the report is duly noted. Moving on to agenda item number 6, and it's minor changes. And that's you again, David.
It is, yep. Thank you, Chair. So just a brief report. Again, you'll be familiar with the nature of the report. So it is to report to this committee changes to establishment outside the full consultation and JCSC process. So where there are substantial changes, we'd expect a consultation period with trade unions, normally around 30 days at least, and then referral back to this committee. For minor changes where the changes aren't considered to be, I suppose, contentious, then we would carry out a consultation exercise with the trade unions over a much shorter period of time and really just report to this committee for information. Only one change that has occurred since the last meeting of the committee. That's in environmental services, so a report brought forward to propose the creation of a climate change officer. And alongside that proposal to create were a number of other minor changes. So deletion of 2 vacant posts, and in another vacant post, the reduction in the number of hours from 37 down to 18.5. Further reduction in hours by 7 a week in one of the neighbourhood warden posts. That was occupied, but that had been run on the 30-hour basis for quite some length of time with agreement of the post holder, at the request of the post holder. And really what's happened is that we've, I suppose, made changes to the post to allow that catch-up. So the post is now based on 30 hours rather than 37. As I say, non-contentious changes, just to report to you for information, Chair.
Any questions on this agenda item? Okay. Recommendation is to note the report. Agenda item number 7, and it's you again, David.
It is, Chair. Thank you. Final one of the evening. Again, just for information. So 3 items that I'd highlighted. One was the National Pay Award, and it is that. It's a national pay difference dispute. The employer side that I mentioned quite some time ago put in a claim for substantial pay rises for the NJC employees. A 10% pay rise was proposed. Nationally, this has been rejected, and you'll see in the detail of the report the counter proposals made by the employer's side. The staff side have rejected the employer's final offer. So where we are at the moment is awaiting results of ballot being run here by trade unions that were recognised as GMB and Unison. Unite also nationally are involved with the dispute. So until we receive notification of the outcome of the next ballot, which will ask about support for industrial action, there is I suppose a pause in terms of the consultation exercise. You'll see in the papers that there's a requirement in law that 50% of the eligible members need to take part in the ballot, and then of that number, there needs to be a greater proportion supporting industrial action for the action to take place. I suppose tactically that we may see something slightly different this time. I'm not sure whether this will actually happen, but there has been talk of, rather than all of the unions acting together in a coordinated way, that perhaps the unions might run separately the ballots for the strike action, the industrial action. There is arguably perhaps a greater chance of at least one or two of those unions perhaps securing support for industrial action, a greater chance rather than all three going together. So that doesn't guarantee anything, but tactically we might see something slightly different this time. Don't have any updates at the moment for you, but as I say, we're just really waiting for the outcome of those ballots. Happy to take questions on that before I move on to the next item.
Councillor Feeney and then Councillor Wilkinson.
Is the council having any difficulty maintaining or recruiting heavy goods vehicle drivers?
So at the moment, I would say no. We have lost a couple of drivers recently, but we've also managed to recruit to those posts. You'll be aware, perhaps through other reports, that we are making a retention payment to HGV drivers. The payment is for £500 now, with a requirement to retain in employment with us for 6 months, and then in April next year to make a second payment of £500 with a requirement to remain in employment until the end of September. So we are doing things to recognise national difficulty and to try to retain as well. But what I would say is at the moment, we're not experiencing a hemorrhaging of drivers, no.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, David. Can I just check the ballots that are taking place? Are they formal industrial action ballots, or are they consultative ballots, as far as you're aware?
I don't know is the answer. My understanding was a ballot for industrial action, but that was only from just general reading around. The unions haven't been in contact to tell me about the nature of those, so I can't answer the question correctly.
Yeah, the reason I ask is I mean I don't know myself, but I know, but I do know within health, where I work, there are consultative ballots going on at the moment, with a view that should there be demonstrated to be sufficient support, then they might proceed to a formal industrial action ballot, which is obviously more expensive than a consultative ballot and has to be conducted in a particular way, etc.
Sure. I think it makes sense, but I don't know. And as you say, reputation, there are issues as well, aren't there? That if you run a full ballot and the turnout is very low, or that there's not clear support, then it's not helpful for other action in the future. So again, tactically, that may be the case, but I don't know.
Any other questions on this agenda? Oh, Councillor Greensmith.
Oh, sorry. Right. Do we have any timescales on when you'll know the answer to the ballots at all?
I'm sorry, I don't know. As I say, in terms of contact with trade unions sort of locally, although I was speaking with them last week, I don't have any update at all.
Right.
So the answer is no, I don't, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, just a query, that was all.
Thank you very much. Any other questions on this agenda item? Okay, yep, thank you very much.
So sure, I'll whiz through those as well. So just one really quick briefing, please, to do with the employee conference, just to let you know that that took place a few weeks ago. Again, probably a difficult one to organise in that clearly we're still working a little bit under restriction, but it was held at the Borough Theatre, and although very much pared back in terms of numbers, successful event. We used a drama company to actually deliver sessions to do with equality and diversity. Some of you may be familiar with the technique, but really it's a drama company specialising in training, and the idea is that they would run sketches to do with behaviours in a workplace, and then running question and answer sessions with the audience, but then as the actor still in character. It's really quite powerful to see, and I know that the people that did attend, I think, really got something out of it. It's a good technique. And again, if you think about other work that's been going on recently to do with the review of the equalities policy for employment and for services as well. I think the topic was particularly timely as well, so that was well received. And finally, the item I was going to mention, Chair, was about the employee survey. So I don't have any information to feed back to you here this evening, so we're still analysing results. What I would say is the turnout for the survey was great. It was really good, about 180 people. So just over 40% of the workforce taking part in that, which I think by any standard is good. What I mentioned in the papers was something around changing sort of methodology for collection of questionnaires from the direct services staff. It's just a posh way of saying really that myself and a colleague turned up at 6 o'clock in the morning with the crews and actually talked to them about what was happening. And I think the direct approach has worked much better than just leaving forms knocking around for people to fill in. So it was a really successful way of getting some information back from a part of the workforce that we've perhaps struggled with in the past. So hopefully some useful information coming back from that quarter as well. Thank you, Chair.
Can I just ask a question about the employee survey? You mentioned forms. I take it they still collect them on paper. Is the council looking at a way to do it online? Because I know a lot of businesses now do staff surveys online. I certainly do mine in my employment. I'm just wondering if that's an option. Maybe we can get a higher turnout if it was done computer-based.
Okay. So we actually run a combination of methods, Chair. So we do allow people with an email address to fill the forms in online. So I think we've already sort of stolen a march with that. We've done that for a couple of years now. We still use paper-based forms for the environment team, so the depot with plastic and waste. It was an easy thing to do to get down there just with the questionnaires and the pens and just ask people to complete them there and then. We do a similar thing with some teams in leisure services where the people don't have ready access to a computer. So it is a combination method to try and suit the circumstances of employment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions on these last two agenda items? No? Okay. Thank you very much. The recommendation is to note the report and it's duly noted. There's nothing else on the agenda. I've got nothing urgent. So thank you all very much for coming this evening and good night.
Thank you.